Slave to our freedom.
The young brother was downright eloquent with his misinformed soliloquy. He said using nigger affectionately among ourselves takes the negativity out of the word, but that no other race of people can use it ever but us. And you thought that kind of reasoning existed only in the Twilight Zone. Then again, the Twilight Zone was a TV show, and the plight of Black America is tragic reality. Somebody said the revolution would not be televised. They didn't say anything about our devolution, which is well documented. You see it every day, our disrespect for one another. You can hear it in our sad excuse for artistry. We continue to squander our brilliant cultural legacy as musicians, poets, educators, and inventors. We call our women bitches and hoes. In a vivid exhibition of self-repulsion, we refer to ourselves as niggas. In our quest for acceptance and our relentless worship of bling, we have shared our sense of dignity and self-worth. It didn't used to be this way. Ironically, back when we fought for the opportunities we now abuse, that is when we stood tallest. Out of our torturous struggle for equality morphed a mighty pride and honor.
Slaves to our freedom.
But now our pride is built on hollow motives and aimless ambitions. Today, to identify our oppressor, the modern Black American need look no further than his own mirror. All of us aren't lost. Many of us know damn well that the emperor is butt naked. Every day we fight the good fight. But high praise for low thinking has taken its toll on generations. When so many are lost, there is enough blame to go around. When Martin Luther King Jr. prophesied the black man one day reaching the so-called promised land, he said,
I might not get there with you.
Lord knows, he didn't think we'd end up here.
Islam, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and is subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatment that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery. At this time, I recite the Moorish American prayer, the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise, rocking my soul in the bosom of Abraham, giving praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, the one who stretched forth the heaven with his hands, who have described with his fingers the courses of the stars, who set it bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and said to the stormy winds, be still. I'd like to give on to the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star, talking about none other than our holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give on to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because it was he who reached down into the watery grave of Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and the beast, and said, you and me back upright on our feet again. I'd like to give on to the forerunner to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'd like to give on to Marcus Mosiah Garvey because this brother had to have pure thoughts in order to pave the way for love. I'd like to give on to all the executive rulers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, here, there, and everywhere. And I'd like to give honor to the Charter, with its 10 great wonders and mysteries. I'd like to give honor to our two flags, the flag of our origin and the flag of our birth. I'd like to give honor to all literature pertaining to Islam in the Moorish Science Temple of America. At this time, I'd like to read from the Moorish Holy Quran, also known as the Book of the Seven Seals, that none was able to open and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. At this time, I'd like to read from chapter 23. The title of this chapter is Holy Instructions for Thy Children. Now, you know in the scriptures, it tells us that Jesus was divinely prepared. But when I look at the top of our Moorish Quran, I see the divine instructions from the Holy Prophet. So anyone that's studying the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali is too being divinely prepared. So I'm going to read from verse 23, and it is read on this wise. Holy instructions for thy children. Consider thou art a parent, the importance of thy trust. The being thou hast produced, it is thy duty to support. Upon thee also it dependeth whether the child of thy bosom be a blessing or a curse to thyself, and useful or worthless member to the community. Prepare him early with instruction, and season his mind with the maxims of truth. Watch the bent of his inclination, set him right in his youth, and let no evil habit gain strength with his years. So shall he rise like a cedar on a mountain. His head shall be seen above the trees of the forest. A wicked son is a reproach to his father, but he that doeth right is an honor to his gray hairs. The soil is thine own, let it not want cultivation. The seed which thou sowest, that also shall thou reap. Teach him obedience, and he shall bless thee. Teach him modesty, and he shall not be ashamed. Teach him gratitude, and he shall receive benefits. Teach him charity, and he shall gain love. Teach him temperance, and he shall have health. Teach him prudence, and fortune shall attain him. Teach him justice, and he shall be honored by the world. Teach him sincerity, and his own heart shall not reproach him. Teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. Teach him science, and his life shall be useful. Teach him religion, and his death shall be happy. Thus we just had a reading of the Moorish Holy Quran, divinely prepared by our Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. It is indeed an honor, a pleasure, moreover a duty, for us to come to you, the Moorish voice, to talk to you about the last prophet in these days and time, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Today, we have a blessing. we have a blessing because last year sometime, our sister from Detroit, Michigan, good spot up there. Got Temple 25, Temple 4, Temple 43. The malls are moving up there in Michigan. But over a year ago, I got a call on the telephone from a sister, Lynch-Bey. And she knew a lot of Moors that I knew. And she was talking about this great sister who was a carpenter and that was coming on this end, and she was trying to find some Moorish American. Man, we picked this sister up. This sister came to the temple on a holy day, and we still jumping for joy for the wisdom that she gave us. And now Allah sent us her back again to be able to give us some understanding about some things that we have no understanding of. Because Drew Ali said the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seems good unto himself. Now, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, he said, get a good European education. He said, when you get a good European education, then I'll be able to use you. So when we learned that back in the 70s, 80s, where the Prophet said that, all the people that I knew started running to college. They started running to college to become mathematicians. They started running to college to be lawyers. They started running to school to be doctors. And the sheikh said, hey, that's not what the Prophet told us. He said, because at one time the whole world was called Asia. And when the Prophet said, get a good European education, he could use you when you live according to hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything in the harm, when you know the ways of the world, when you are like the prodigal son and you left your father's house and went out into the world, because that's Asia. Then you're going into Europe. So getting a European education reminds me where Drew Ali say it is for our earthly and divine salvation. Why? Because we are Moorish American. But those of us, they only have an earthly salvation because they done took my Jesus, buried him in Vatican Square, and got Jesus now looking like Charlton Heston or Ricky Nelson. Now, in the Moorish Science Temple, when you begin to talk about sisters, and that's very important because when you talk about Ruth, in the book of Ruth the Moabites, when you begin to talk about Solomon, and when you begin to talk about David, because Drew Ali told us about Ruth the Moabite, but he said the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now we have a sister in our midst today. Look how good she looked too. She looked beautiful. But the difference in the Moorish sister than any other sister who wear a turban in the middle, our sisters wear a pin. And that pin represents the all-seeing eye, because it's the crescent and the star. And when you see the crescent and the star, that means that the crescent is the woman and man is inside of her womb. So when a sister begins to wear that all-seeing eye, then she's going to tell you something about intuition. Because Allah gave woman intuition, but he gave man the intelligence to be able to interpret her intuition. So brothers, I hope you are blessed by the great God Allah with that understanding to be able to interpret her intuition. And I want to call her. But before I call her, you know, Drew Ali told all the Moors to get in your household and take her to thyself a wife. And man, I've been trying to find one. But I met one recently. And everything that my mother told me about womanhood, I seen in this sister, Lynch-Bey. And I knew it was happening because of her husband passing in the temple. So I want y'all to sit back right now, because this sister here, she's been the PTA president. She worked with youth. She's a carpenter. She got so much to tell us. In the last couple of days, we've been in the chamber going over some things that we'll talk about later on, because she told me so much. I'm still trying to interpret it. So without further ado, I want to call my sister and my baby daughter, my friend, and the sheikhs of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Sheikh Calhoun Bey.
Islam. It's an honor, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
It's an honor. Praise Allah, Most High, all-knowing, all-seeing, most merciful. Honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and times. And honors to this Moorish divine and national movement. It's an honor to go on the road, traveling, working, and have the ability to call a Moor and say, where are the Moors in this state? And then you get a telephone number and you have a good Moor. And that's what I found here in Portland, Oregon, in Temple number 2 with Brother Lynch-Bey and the chairman, Brother Boston Neal. And so I wanted to give honors in conjunction to the honors that were previously given. And today I want to speak on sisterhood. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have divine instructions from our Holy Prophet, and he speaks often on the characteristics of a sister. And the one thing is that our Prophet gave us specific instructions, but we do have instructions for our sisters, but all of the instructions are for brothers and sisters. Okay? So the brother wanted me to give my perspective of my role and the sister's role in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Well, first of all, we have to understand the character of a good Moorish sister. And we can look in our Quran and get specific instructions. We have examples of Salome in our Quran. We have examples of Mary and Elizabeth as sisters with good character. But we have specific instructions from our Prophet that deal with choosing a woman to be a wife, to be the mother of a nation, Moabitis. And he speaks in chapter 20 in holy instructions and warnings for all young men. He says in the first instructions, beware, young man, beware of all the allurements of wantonness, and let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. The madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits. From the blindness of its rage thou shalt rush upon destruction. Therefore give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. The fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. And we're talking about a loose woman, a woman who is more concerned about lust and materialistic things. But he's in our chapter, in our next instruction, in instruction 6, it says, but when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power, it is in vain to resist. And so Prophet Noble Drew Ali gives us that example of a Moorish woman, a modest woman, a sister that has her conduct square, her character is in order. And in chapter 21, we also hear more details about this woman. And these are the sisters that we need in our sisterhood in the Moorish Science Temple of America, so that we can have great improvements on the women, the mothers, the sisters that are, many of them, going to be the mothers of our Moorish nation and our Moorish community. So in chapter 21, It says in instruction 6, her hand seeketh employment. Her foot delighteth not in gadding abroad. She is clothed with neatness. She is fed with temperance. Humility and meekness are as a crown of glory circling her head. On her tongue dwelleth music. The sweetness of honey floweth from her lips. Decency is in all her words, and her answers are mildness and truth. Submission and obedience are the lessons of her life, and peace and happiness are her reward. Before her steps walketh prudence, and virtue attendeth at her right hand. Her eye speaketh softness and love, but discretion with a scepter sitteth on her brow. The tongue of the licentious is dumb in her presence. The awe of her virtue keepeth him silent. When scandal is busy, and the fame of her neighbors is tossed from tongue to tongue, if charity and good nature open not her mouth, the finger of silence resteth on her lip. Her breast is the mansion of goodness, and therefore she suspecteth no evil of others. And this describes the sisters, the Moorish sisters, the mothers of the nation. That's how I see myself, as a Moorish American Muslim, a sister, Moabitess, Sheikhess. The prophet tells us in Duty of a Husband, he also describes the sisters. He says in instruction 4, but when thou findest sensibility of heart, joined with softness of manners and accomplished mind, with a form agreeable to thy fancy, take her home to thy house. She is worthy to be thy friend, thy companion in life, the wife of thy bosom. And it's important for the brothers to choose a woman that has an accomplished mind, because she is the first teacher. And she has to be, number one, first of all, she has to be able to study herself and know herself. And then she has to know these lessons. The first lesson in our Quran is know thyself. And the Prophet instructs us mothers to teach these lessons to your little ones. How are you going to teach if you don't have an accomplished mind, if you can't comprehend things, if you can't comprehend these lessons yourself and you can't be these lessons yourself? You may have some problems when it comes to teaching these lessons to your little ones. It says that they may learn to love instead of to hate. Got a lot of hating going on nowadays. So the sisters should be very skilled in teaching these lessons. And then the brother spoke on the holy instructions for thy children. And he read the 12 maxims. He talked about what to teach the children. Teach them obedience, teach them modesty, gratitude, teach them charity, teach them temperance, teach them prudence, teach them justice, sincerity, diligence, benevolence, science, and religion. And so if you're able to teach those things, then obviously then you've learned them yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of learning. That's an accomplished mind right there that has learned those lessons and all the blessings that go, that come with learning. These are virtues. So I wanted to also say that in the future, where I see our Moorish and Divine movement, I live in a city, Detroit, Michigan, full of Moors. And one day I would like to be married and have a home and a business in a Moorish community, you know, close to the temple. It would be beautiful. I would like to see my husband to be a faithful member of society, of a Moorish community, establishing our family business and leading our family. Because a lot of times in my travels, you go into cities and there are different neighborhoods and all of the nationalities. It's a tradition in America to go somewhere and you go to Chinatown, or you go to Mexican town, or you go to German town, or little Bavaria, you know, things like that. And they are practicing their nationality right here in America. That's a blessing. That's a part of the divine creed that we are teaching our people. And so we should have a Moorish community where we live, where we worship, where we have our businesses. You know, that's establishing our economic base also, because Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that it takes finances to uplift a nation. So, but ultimately, you know, the thing that's going to help in our to sustain and maintain our Moorish community is the Moors themselves consistently and regularly studying the lesson. And what is the lesson but know thyself? Keep your conduct square. You know, that's the character that's gonna there's gonna have to be a certain type of character to maintain a nation. And you're gonna have to constantly study that. You know, the lesson is, and the most important lesson is, know thyself. And that's whether you're a sister or a brother or a young person, know thyself, study thyself. You're an individual, you're a part of a family, and your family is a part of a nation. Peace.
Praise Allah. I'm kind of confused. This sister had me confused here on this Moorish Voice television broadcast. And the reason why I'm confused, because I heard this sister reading from the Moorish Holy Quran. I heard this sister talk about the teachers of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but she ain't said nothing about no UCC. She ain't tell you that you got to go get your driver's license. She ain't tell you had to go down no court. So that's why she on this Moorish Voice, because she has the understanding. You know, when I heard first that she was close to this sister named A. Washington Hill. I remember Love used to call her Spring Chicken because that used to be his wife. And her father got his minister papers from Drew Ali himself. So when I met this sister and heard from where she come and heard her, I said, sister, for the last 18 months, I was telling her to get Nelson Bey's daughter and the Cook Bey's daughter, somebody, get them sisters and let them come up here to teach. Because it was a sister that I kept trying to put Boston Hill on because she kept worrying me. She came by my house one day. Said, Lynch-Bey, what's wrong with me? She said, what's wrong with me? I ain't good enough for you? You don't like me? I said, no, sister, that's what it is. That's why you can't learn your questionnaire and everything. You ain't into the prophet. You into me. And I see what that was. So we glad that we have a sister, you know, a better half, that could come on this show and tell the sisters about moral character. This sister remind me of Jesus now. Because they say when you first seen Jesus, he was climbing up a ladder. And they said Jesus had 3 things in his hand. And the 3 things in his hand was the compass, the square, and the axe. When I first met this sister, she had those same 3 things in her hand, the compass, the square, and the axe. So right now what I want to do is, I want to call somebody else that's got something to tell us today, because both of them come through the same lineage. So without further ado, we want to hear from the chairman of this temple, Brother A. Boston Hill.
Islam Morris, and I want to thank the Sheikh for his presentation. I want to say Islam to the sister also, and she shared some things about sisterhood to our important listening audience. It's a pleasure to be back. First of all, I want to rise and give true and perfect praises to the great God of the universe. Allah is his holy Muslim name, the one who stretcheth forth the heavens with his hands, and described with his fingers the course of the stars, and who says to the stormy wind, be still. I want to give honors to our holy and divine prophet, the only American-born prophet that was sent by the great God Allah to redeem that which was lost, and that is our nationality and divine creed. I just want to just kind of reiterate on what the sister was talking about, because the Prophet Noble Drew Ali instructs us, brothers, Moorish men, in this national and divine movement, to have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. And I want to commend Sister Lynch-Bey for the book that she wrote, Deep Appreciation of Womanhood. It's a very enlightening book. Subject matter was right on point. And she brought up some things in this book that she was talking about, because, you know, we have to realize, because the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali teaches us, he says that man is not the body nor the soul, he is the spirit and the part of Allah. So, you know, we have to keep that in mind. And then divine instructions from the Holy Prophet, what the Sheikh was pointing out earlier. But I want to take this reading from page 3 out of the Moorish Holy Quran. And it says, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones, that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. And I just wanted to take that reading because the sister took a reading from chapter 20. She took a reading from chapter 21, and also duty of a husband. And you know, the prophet is very explicit in his divine instructions that he has given us to govern our life. And when we were up under the names and labels that delude to slavery, Negro, black, and colored, we had no self-government. But what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali came, he brought nationality and divine creed. And this divine creed that we have, that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us, is our system of government. Because, see, we operate under no man but Allah. You know, we operate under Allah because we recognize that Allah is the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. So therefore, we don't have to answer no man. So I'm gonna get into some other stuff before we end the show today. But I just wanted to extend high honors to the sister for her presentation, because, you know, for us to have a deeper appreciation for womanhood, I'm talking about men in general. You know, we need to feed the sisters positive encouragement. We need to, you know, the prophet tells us in the Moorish literature, he said that our sisters should hear kind words, should see a man do good deeds, and be responsible, you know. But this society that we have, like the Sheikh always say, you know, we're in the great melting pot, and we have a lot of different nationalities that live in this country, you know. And then when you take somebody away from their culture and their traditions, and then you impose upon them your own beliefs and your own ideologies, that person is not able to operate effectively, especially under divine law, because divine law comes from Allah. But anyway, I want to go into what I wanted to talk about tonight, because matter of fact, I'm going to take this reading first from the general laws as said by the prophet. And this is out of the prophet's Moorish literature. And when I come on to teach, I always like to teach from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's literature, because these are the divine instructions that we are getting from him. You know, he is our holy prophet. But he said, they are not to contribute to anything that will cause the public to disagree with him or her. And for one to lead a group of Moors, you must keep your house clean with good deeds, kind words. Your wives, brothers must hear kind words, good words, kind words, and must know of your good deeds. If there are children, you must see to their support. So, you know, anybody that's doing anything that's diametrically opposed to the divine instruction of the Holy Prophet is in disobedience, and is in a state of disobedience. And see, I know a few shows ago when the Sheik had mentioned, we was talking about Ham, Shem, and Japheth, the 3 sons of Noah, and they want you to believe that Ham was cursed, but Ham was not cursed. And the Prophet Noble Ali tell us that every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honor not the creed and principles of their father and mother. See, so every nation of people has suffered slavery at one time or another, and we didn't go into slavery because we were cursed. We did not go into slavery because we were cursed. We went into slavery because we had stopped thinking. You know, we had stopped thinking, and that's the Prophet Noble Ali came and said, if I can get you to think, you can save yourself. You know, so we have this this literature that the Holy Prophet Noble Ali has brought us. So, you know, it's incumbent upon us as Moors, you know, to get back in get back in the rightful place, because the Prophet Noble Ali tells us, you know, to take our place in the affairs of men. If you're not a man, you ain't gonna take your place in the affairs of men. You know, so, you know, this message is for all the nations, you know, and for us to be united and tied back in with the human family, the human family. And there's no Negro, black, or color attached to the human family. This is what the Prophet Noble Ali teaches us in the Holy Quran. So we have these many lessons, but how many times do we actually just sit back and study? You know, I was teaching on inconstancy last week, and I was using my own personal experience on how I've been inconstant in the past, you know, with my thoughts. You know, because the Prophet tells us the thought is the cause of it all. See, your actions don't come first. Your behavior don't come first. Those are just results of the way you think. And if you thinking from an abnormal point of view, then your behavior and your actions is going to be abnormal. So this is what the Prophet Noble Ali is bringing us, these divine lessons right here, so that we can be normal, not abnormal, because that's the opposite of someone that's able to think and reason and will for themselves. You know, so I love the Prophet's teachings. I praise Allah each and every day that he sent us an American-born prophet to redeem that which is lost and restore us with our nationality, our divine creed, and our way of governing ourselves and our nation. What the sister was talking about earlier today too, also about the woman's responsibility and the man's responsibility, because you know, and the Sheik say this all the time. He talks about man and woman. See, but the only difference between man and woman is that duty.
That's right.
That's it. That's it. That's the only difference between a man and woman is their duty. So, you know, we have the prophets tell the brothers what kind of woman to look for, what kind of characteristics to look for in a woman, and you know. And then we can look back, and the sister was talking about in the lesson, talking about virtue and modesty, you know, and you know, I see a lot of sisters on Facebook, on these social media networks that claim in ills and bays,
Teach more,
but are dressing like hoochies. You know, and on Friday you go to the temple, you got your Moorish garb on, but then after that you got a short skirt on. And showing your cleavage and all that kind of stuff. See, that's not the kind of characteristic that the Prophet Noble Ali wants our sisters to exemplify. You know, so you sisters need to tighten up out there. Brothers, you need to tighten up too. And we need to start being obedient to the Prophet and being obedient to the great God Allah. Because we are not trying to recruit nobody. We're not trying to initiate nobody. The only thing that we have come to do is to warn you of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth if you continue in your ways. And the sinful ways that you are continuing in is by proclaiming the names and labels that delude to slavery, Negro, black, and colored. So come by the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple 2. We meet at Mac Dishman every Friday evening from 6 to 7:45. Come by and hear this everlasting gospel. That we can share with you about what your rightful place is in the human family. And with that, I'm going to say all praises be to Allah. I want to extend honors to our treasurer, and brother and friend, Brother Navi Lynch-Bey. May Allah continue to bless you, my brother. And I'm going to turn the show back over to the Sheikh right now, Sheikh James Lynch-Bey.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Navi probably out there dancing somewhere. Boy got that one leg, Kuta Kite, he probably dancing somewhere. That's my man. You know, I want to talk about something. But before I do, I have a blessing for Portland. Portland, I have a blessing for you today. You know, every time we close out the show, Brother Boston Hill always sing a song of the Moorish Science Temple. And you know, in the temples in the street, yeah, I mean, I'm in the street, but I'm talking about the temples, you know, after every speaker, you always have a song. And I was listening to this sister today. She was singing a song, a Moorish song. And she said, Sister A. Washington Hill reminds me of this song. That's why I sing it so much. So without further ado, we want this sister right here to sing our Portland listening audience a song. And you know she's from Detroit. And you know up there in Detroit, they got Motown. So what I want you to do is listen to my sister as she sings this great song. Praise Allah.
I want to walk like Allah say walk. I want to walk like Allah say walk. 'Cause if I walk like Allah say walk, I know that everything is gonna be alright. I want to pray like Allah say pray. I want to pray like Allah say pray. 'Cause if I pray like Allah say pray, I know that everything is gonna be alright. I want to live like Allah say live. I want to live like Allah say live. 'Cause if I live like Allah say live, I know that everything is gonna be alright.
Praise Allah. Now we don't do no clapping. We don't clap, man. Praise
Wave a red flag with a green star to center.
Praise Allah, man.
Praise Allah.
I want to go back over something because it's very important that I do. Because the Prophet Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that it was for the Europeans' earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish and Markers, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. And the reason why we have a divine salvation is because we ain't taking nothing from nobody, and we got the Spirit of God in us. And I want to share this again, because I heard Boston Hill talk about Ham supposed to be cursed. Now let me tell you about King James. I got to go back to this chump again, because he was with Isabella, Ferdinand, Vespucius, and all those dudes that had a lot to do with us in 1492. And one of the things that this guy, James Stewart, now I ain't mad with what he did to his mother, and he even raped him. I'm not mad with him about that. The only thing I messed up with him, but because I know his culture. But he took this Bible. He took the Holy Bible. That's why Drew Ali say, don't throw your Bibles away. Because we're going to have to take these Bibles and use them to condemn the government. And one of the things that James Stewart did, he went into our genealogy. And when he went into our genealogy, he made Shem the oldest son. When you look in the Bible, it said Noah's 3 sons were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And you know Africa is the cradle of civilization. You know when one talk about Ham, they talking about the birthplace. They're talking about Africa, but now they don't have Ham as the oldest son. They changed the genealogy, and then they have Shem as the oldest son. And Drew Ali told us that. He told us that in our literature. He talks about that. He talks about the ancient Moabites. He talks about the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. I've been posting that lately about the Chinese, because when you begin to talk about the Chinese, you remember Abraham? Abraham had a wife named Sarah. And Sarah wasn't able to have children. But she had a handmaid named Hagar, the Egyptian, the African. So they had a child. And the child that they had, the child's name was Ishmael. Ishmael is the father of the Arabian nation. That's why the sheiks, when we first joined the temple, they said, make sure you get J.A. Rogers' collection. Because when you get J.A. Rogers' collection, when you look at it, you look at Africa, you look at Morocco, and you look at the Moors that was there then, they look nothing like you and me. When you go into Arabia today, and see all those people in the Arabian Peninsula, they are not the original Arabians. They are Europeans. That's why when Trump went over to Arabia recently, the only reason why you knew that he wasn't no was because he didn't have one of them things on his head. But they look just like him because they are the same blood. They are the seed of Japheth. And when you look at Japheth, you're talking about the European nations. You're talking about Gog and Magog, the evil forces of the world that bring about mischief. So Noble Ali was sent to us by the great God Allah to restore some things back upon us that was lost. And what was that? Nationality. Everybody have a... Man, I get sick and tired of all these brothers. My man with us today, I told him all morning that this sister wasn't black. And you can sit right in here with me today and talk about my black sister. That was so disrespectful because you got to check your records out. Nationality is the order of the day. We have an Act 6 in our divine constitution and bylaws. And Noble Ali told the Moors, he said, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government. And know that they're not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. Because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So now he's telling us that we have a nationality. He said, did not we have a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century? If so, what was it? So now we're all singing this thing in church. We say the book say, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee. Are you honoring your father? When you honor your father, you honor the great God Allah. And you do that by your religion, by looking up towards heaven. Now, when I say heaven, I'm talking about the state of mind. I'm talking about a state of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Because Drew Ali said, Allah never made a heaven for man. He never made a hell. We are creators and make our own. So I want to tell you about this nationality. I say it often, and we was in the temple Friday. And a brother came all the way from Hillsborough to hear about the prophet. And I had to tell him about my two dogs. I told him I had a German Shepherd, and I had a Mexican Chihuahua. And we all was going to PDX. I was going back to Washington, D.C. And no, I was going to Africa. I was going to the black, Negro, and colored land. And my dogs, one of them was going to Germany because he was a German Shepherd. The other one was going to Mexico because he's a Mexican Chihuahua. So when they was at the airport, the man said, all aboard for Mexico. And the little Mexican told me, okay, I'll see you later, Papi, I'm gone. The man went on back to Mexico. My man was going to Germany. He said, hey, woo, 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 woo. He said, I'm gone. And he went on back to Germany. I'm still at the airport waiting to go to Negro land, colored land, or black land. But you know what Drew Ali told us? He said, Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. That river today is in Brazil, another part of the Berlin Conference. So when you talk about Brazil, you're talking about Africa. Africa is the cradle of civilization. Now, we say we're Moorish Americans. Drew Ali didn't say we was Moroccan Americans. He said we're Moorish Americans. He said, why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Now, what Moroccans are you talking about, though? Are you talking about French Morocco, or are you talking about Spanish Morocco? Because when Drew Ali came, this flag right here wasn't even being flown. And the reason why they had to take this flag down is because the flag that they put up in Israel, the six-pointed star. And that six-pointed star, they keep trying to convince the states of minds that that six-pointed star is the Star of David. But I'm from the house of David. Look at me. This flag right here is the flag of Solomon. Look in your encyclopedia, unless they took it out there by now. But if you look at an ancient one, they say this is the flag. So it don't make sense to me. By David and Solomon being father and son, that has a different flag. So now when you look at this sister here,
Wow.
this sister is Sister Ruth. See, the Moabite. When you see her, you see Mary. See, and we and her was talking the other day about virgin birth. See, they said, was Jesus born of virgin birth? I said, yes, sister, Jesus was born of virgin birth. But when we go to Bible study, we don't have that same concept that they do. So I want to give you our concept and the one that we don't talk too much about when we're around those who can't think. Virgin birth. Mary was a righteous woman. Joseph was a righteous man. They both was a part of a Essene brotherhood. They both studied the lessons of Jesus. And when they studied the lessons of Jesus, what do that mean? That Jesus was born of virgin birth because he come through an uncursed vessel. He came to mother and father that were living according to the word of God. And because they were living according to the word of God, they sheltered him. Because you know a virgin is one that has been untouched. You know, when the brother we come up, everybody want a virgin because she had been untouched. You know, and so Jesus was untouched with the things of the world. So yes, he was born of virgin birth. And when you, little young sister and young brother, when y'all begin to have a child, and you living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and not Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, which are the attributes of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything else, you too are being born of virgin birth. Being born again means changing your thought pattern. So now we're talking to a sister this morning. And you take an M and O. See, that's when you use the M-O. Brother want to use Mo and call me Mo. But you take M-O, M-A-N. So you take a woman. Woman has a W. But if you turn that W upside down, it becomes an M. So that woman is a Mo man too. Because when you begin to talk about the woman, when you're on the spiritual plane, that the gender don't make a difference. But the only difference now is our duty. And it say, take unto thyself a wife and take one that's agreeable to your fancy. Man, Allah gave me a sister the other day. Mind me of you, sister. Man, I was talking to this sister. She's so beautiful. And she into the spirit of God. You know, so, and she on her way up here to Portland. You know, I wish she was here now to meet you. Because we got a lot of work to do, Mo. Allah kept us around for good reason. We need to give our life a will and sacrifice. And all of you brothers, and all you sisters, somebody was on the Facebook, sister Facebook, the page today, telling you send him some money, he'd be the leader of the Moore Scientific Save her. We need to stop all that, Mo. I'm over 65. That's why I'm waiting on you young brothers to call me up. I'm going to lead the way anyway. But we need to stop all this foolishness in the Moore Scientific up here in Portland. I'm glad she came so she can get on the TV to talk to our Portland listening audience, because the only thing you hear about from UCC, you got to go to court, and you go to court, you got to pay for this paperwork, and you got to get a black law dictionary, and you got to get, well, Lynch-Bey, why you didn't do that? Because your leader, the one that's doing all that and having you to do that, when he came into the Moore Science Temple of America, I was already a sheik. See, so when I joined the temple, this stuff wasn't around the UCC and all that stuff, because Drew Ali told us that the Moorish Science Temple of America is the Freedmen's Bureau. And you don't have to go to no European court, because if you had to do that, then Drew Ali wasn't a prophet. If I had to do any of that, I wouldn't have looked at Drew Ali as business. He said, all you got to do is follow me to a destiny which is not uncertain, nor unknown. So when you join the Moorish Science Temple of America, that's all you have to do. Take your nationality card, and you be a citizen of this government. All the Moors that they keep telling me we ain't citizens. Drew Ali said that. I quoted when I first come on the show today. That's why I quoted. Drew Ali told us that we were citizens. Listen to the prophet. Prophet, no. Now, see, you listen to Prophet 2. You look to Prophet 3. And you listen to Prophet 4. But Prophet number 1, that was born in 1886 and founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913, I'd like to reiterate it. He said that the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family-wide, one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government a class that's undesirable and is subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. Now, we talk about the citizens, and we talk about a slave name. We talked about that in the temple the other day too. Because you listening to somebody, and Drew Ali already had gave him the instruction. We talking about a slave name now. What is the slave name? I'm going to use myself, Lynch. Merrill Lynch was bullish on America. And Willie Lynch taught the slaves. I mean, the slave owners. So Lynch is not a slave name. Calhoun is not a slave name. Boston is not a slave name. The slave name is Negro, colored, and black. And if you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, you can't be a citizen. When Malcolm X went to the United Nations, the Secretary General at that time was you thumped. And Malcolm said, hey man, we bringing the United States before the world court and charge genocide. You thought, said, Malcolm, you're a powerful brother, man. Say, we listen to you and everybody know who you are. But in order to take the United States before the world court, you must represent a nation. And we already have a representative for the United States. Hey, Malcolm, what nation do you represent? I represent the black man. Come on, man, you're too intelligent for that, man. If you call yourself black, that's unintelligent. I was talking to a brother today, Michael Fowler, on Facebook. And we used to walk home from school together. And back then, man, if somebody called you black, you better know how to fight. Black, according to science, means death. When you go to the funeral, they wear black. Now, this flag don't represent death. It represents justice, because justice is dealing upright, equal, and fair. And when you begin to deal with upright, equal, and fair, you're dealing with some science. Now, when you look at these circle sevens that the brothers wear, they have one side, the back of them, they're rounded off. And on the front side, it's square. So when you go to the back and round them off, that means that you begin to deal with the tools of the workshop of the mind, where things are made of thought and where you build up character. But when you're talking about you got the tools out of the workshop of the mind, you can't use a hammer when it's time to use a plane. You can't use a plane when it's time to use a saw. You got to use the proper tool at the proper time. So we're talking about building a house. We're talking about building something that cannot be destroyed. We're not walking on water, but we're walking above the watery grave, because we are no longer thinking like a European. See, in chapter 17, I want to say this before I stop. In chapter 17, Jesus went over in Europe, because he taught in India, Africa, and Europe. And when he went into Europe, he just told me I have to close down, so I've been running my mouth. So I'm going to get ready to close down now. We'll continue this another time. But it was always an honor, a pleasure, and a duty for us to come before the Moorish voice to talk about the last prophet in these days and time. I'll record the Moorish American prayer, then I'll let Smokey Robinson sing for us this evening. At this time, I'll recite the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah.
the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the Lord is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. That's it, Mo. You ain't got to do that because I run my mouth too much.
The citizens of all three national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family, bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classified as undesirables and are subjugated to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care